Hello, welcome to Yates Makes. I'm back with another gel plate video. This week I've been kind of playing with texture, layering and combining some collage techniques I wanted to share with you along with my gel plate prints. Okay, let's have a look at some techniques and see how we got on. Okay, I'm going to quickly talk you through a couple of pieces I've been working on. So here's the first. This one started out as a cardboard collage. So I love geometry, and this was I haven't done this for a while, but how satisfying is drawing a 5-pointed star with a compass. Anyway, thought I'd chuck that in at the start because that was the starting point for my collage. I made a positive and negative from that cardboard cutout, so I had kind of two collage card stamps to work with. So inked up in purple, there's my first collage stamp. So that's just the positive of the star mounted on a piece of mat board or mount board, and you can see the impression there. Okay, my first texture experiment is to flick water off the end of a brush. Now I've kind of borrowed this off Drew Steinbrecher, who's got a channel on YouTube. I'll link it in the description, and I've kind of adapted it a bit from how he does it, mainly because I'm so impatient. I've just got the tissue paper out and I wait for the surface acrylic to dry and then just damp off those water droplets, and sometimes you get some quite interesting impressions from the tissue as well. Anyway, you can see what you get is this lovely peeled fractured texture. Right, moving on. So the next, I'm using the inverse of my collage. So this one is the kind of background, if you like, with the star removed from the center. So I should get the reverse here and get a complete star on the background lifted away. So I've inked up in blue, and there you go. I love these collage stamps because you get some of the background as well. Just dropping a bit of the blue into the purple. Now cardboard, corrugated cardboard, fantastic. I'm just going to stamp that in really lightly to try and just break some of that shape up of the star. Maybe gone a bit heavy with the texture, but we'll see. So now I'm going to pull this print. This is just like titanium white and a kind of Pabio fluoro orange, inking up in 2 halves, paper on. Now this is a tip that I'm still using now, is to leave it to dry overnight, and these just pull off so clean. So there's my kind of base, if you like, and what I'm going to build some collage and drawing work over. You can see the lovely kind of textures contrasting well in the stills there. It's probably worth adding here, I had no grand plan, this kind of just evolved. So I was thinking like stars and a stripe, so you know I love masking tape, so I thought I'll stick a masking tape stripe down that side, and then kind of wanted to sort of make a bit more of that feature, so I thought, right, collage. Now with this bundle of Letraset I've got these amazing figures I found recently. I think I featured in my last video. Now what I don't want to do is use them all up. So I'm going to use a technique I worked out years ago, which is you can, using an inkjet or a laserjet printer, print onto tissue paper and then use that tissue paper as collage. So you'll notice that I've sealed down one edge. That's going to be the leading edge that goes into the printer, and now I'm just chopping down to size, and you can see it's well secured on that right hand end, and that's the end I'm going to be sticking in the printer. Now as long as it's quite flat, not really crinkled from the back of your art cupboard, you'll find that it prints just great. The other advantage of this is I've scanned those Letraset figures, and because I've scanned them I've been able to duplicate them, change the opacity, and look, good to go. Quality's come out just fine. Great way of getting a bit more out of stuff you don't want to quite part with just yet. Or, like I said before, if you want to play around with opacities and the size of the features that you want to collage. Okay, I think about this point a narrative's starting to kind of evolve. I love like repeated images. You know, you've got the whole pop connotations, especially if it's kind of advertising imagery, as you know, like I'm using here, but it's more about this kind of repetition of stories and little narratives over time and memories and how things kind of get cemented or evolve in our minds over the years. So I kind of repeated imagery has often popped up in my art over the years. Alright, sorry about that, I've been rambling on. What am I up to now? Well, look, here is a tiny bit of acrylic paint down on the gel plate, and that is just to coat the back of these collage pieces, just so they're not fully transparent, or should I say the white tissue paper, which of course as soon as it makes contact with the gel medium, which I'm going to use to adhere it to my background, it's just going to go totally transparent. And I wanted it just to sort of stand up a little bit against the background, just to see how it would look really. So there you go, positioning those, and I'll brush a little bit of gel medium over the top as well, just to make sure it's nice and secure. Okay, let's just look at one more technique I used to highlight the benefit of scanning, playing around with the opacity, transparency of your collage pieces. You can then layer them up to create these kind of staggered kind of double image effects, which is what I've done on a few of the figures. If I hold up to the camera there, look, looks good where they're lower opacity, slightly more fainter, creates a bit of movement in your piece. Look, I use Photoshop for this, but you could easily, when I say for this, I mean for adjusting the opacity, but there's so much freeware, good apps for your phones, your iPad, you know, plenty of things you can find to do this quite easily. You can even do it, I think, in Word, just by importing an image and playing around with the colour correction settings. Right, a little bit more collage, and then about this point the sort of stories of this little experiment is sort of coming together in my mind, and the dancers are just kind of constantly reminding me of these holidays we had as a kid with a Greek family my parents knew, and we'd go to their guest house at the coast, and all the chairs would be pushed back to the wall and they would just dance all night, a lot of drinking, a lot of noise. But I was young and I remember just sort of crawling around the floor and just dancing legs around me. So I put the constellations in because, you know, it is kind of written in the stars. Those friendships in your life. You know, you could have been put in another class, sit on a different seat on a bus, miss someone by a second and you'd never meet them. Right, moving on, second experiment. I'm just going to kind of time lapse this one because a lot of the techniques are fairly similar. There is one more that I'm going to introduce that I kind of discovered while I was playing around with this experiment. I think I'm going to base my next video on because I've kind of nice little discovery. So there you go, more water splatters, this time putting in some strips of paper to kind of give a torn effect running through it. Again with the tissue to pull off those wet patches and give that fractured kind of peeling look. Playing with some gold paint, again doing another layer of splattered water to create texture. Now here's what I'm going to base the next video on, which is using a baby wipe to smear through layers. I think that's got loads of potential, so yeah, watch this space. More Collograph stamps and a little arrow one that I've had knocking around in the cupboard, and some text involved in this one, peeling the whole thing off, and there you go. Textures seem to have worked again. I love that peeled texture, and I really like that smeared kind of baby white texture. Again, use some collage pieces, stuck on some little dot stickers as well, just to get a brighter bit and carry that green through into the bottom, and all done. Just got the constellations to add. Should have mentioned before, but I'm using a white Posca pen for this. And yeah, there you go. I love these graphic lines, graphic sort of work over the top of really heavily textured and fractured layers. Yeah, there you go, another one done. There you go. Hope you enjoyed the video and that there is something in there that you can kind of adapt, develop, incorporate with your own work. Remember, if you enjoyed the video, if you got something from it, subscribe to the channel to get your notifications and so forth. You know, like, share, comment, all the rest of it, and I'll see you soon for another video. Take it easy. Ta-da.